And therefore, I, as an artist, I feel obligated to tell a story that will be in one way understood by the new generation of the German now, and the generation of the Tanzanian now. Because sometimes I feel like there is a missing point of these stories, in which you find those who are in Germany, they understand less, and therefore they don't give even enough appreciation of this collection. And when it comes to the point that these collections are supposed to get back to the places of their origin, they cannot give a solid support towards that. But if you tell them a story of these bags and the meaningful of these medicinal bags, then they will understand that, oh, okay, there's a need of this bag to go back. Because imagine, what if the cure of AIDS or the cure of corona is in that bag, and the bag now is in the hands of the museum, and the bag was supposed to be inherited to someone within the community where the bag came from. Imagine that. So if I push those boundaries or frontiers as an artist to the community, to the German community there, to the institutional community there, that this bag should return to the place of its origin, maybe if there is bad misfortunes inside of those communities, this bag could solve these misfortunes. Not only are these misfortunes inside of those communities, but also to the world at all. You know, sometimes it's not about these, I can say, industrial medication to heal people. Sometimes it's about this traditional medication. And therefore, giving the point of concern is me painting these stories, telling them, enlightening them about the importance of these objects and what we have. But also, as an artist, I feel free also to tell a story, maybe from the personal level to the community level, that we have some untold stories that our brothers maybe in America, brothers in whatever part of the world need to hear. We have these stories of our great fathers like Mwalimu Nyerere. They might know Mwalimu Nyerere in a perspective of those who wrote depending on their motives. But what if I gave a story of Mwalimu Nyerere, a raw story of Mwalimu Nyerere, based on what I know, I grew up observing, I grew up living in, and enlightening them about how Mwalimu used to be, what Mwalimu did, and them knowing Mwalimu in a perspective, in an artistic perspective. So, all in all, I want to, I feel so obligated to tell stories, the unheard, untold stories through my work of art. That's why you find that most of the time I pen these stories, these hidden stories through my work of art, not with a consideration of the market, but with a consideration of what I want to make change inside of the community, but not in the Tanzanian boundaries, but also in the global boundaries, that we have these stories and they should know about these stories, and this is what is all about my work.
Sincerely. I have to say that's why I'm here with you now. That's why I fellowship with you. That's why you are my brother.
Yeah.
Because we have the same vision, we have the same mind, but I have that exact same obligation that you say you have for African people here, I have for our people in America, our African diaspora people in America. And that's why it's critical for us both not to just tell our stories to the world, but to share our stories with each other.
Yes.
Because we have to reconquer our history. Because our history so long has been taught to us by that don't come from us.
Yeah, yeah.
So they have been telling our story to us, but we have not been telling our story to each other. We have not been teaching our kids the real story. So that's powerful. So you do these exhibitions, you have these paintings, and you do fine arts. Let's let that be clear. It's not just art. You do fine art. That's a very distinctive difference.
Thanks.
Why is it powerful for artistry to be a big industry, not only here in Tanzania, but also with our brothers and sisters in America also? Why should we all be involved in having our own art?
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point actually, and myself, I'm so much interested when we have the ownership of what belongs to us. I'm so much interested in that. Even when we have that's why you find that most of the time I have lots of Tanzanian collectors than these other collectors from other countries. The ideal of being an artist is not just to make money out of your career, but is to change the narrative of what is all about art, ownership, community change, or social change. And saying that art and history have a very great contribution to the rise, and sometimes they act as reminders of any growing nation. So, where can we make references if we don't have the ownership, or if we don't own our stories or tell our story, or if we don't own our art or defending our art or speaking of our art? Where are we going to be identified? How are we going to be identified? So art history creates a culture of identity. And therefore, if I come to a house of an African or African American or whatever, and then he or she has some collections of stories, I can say, whether through art or books or whatever it is, in a way, I feel better because they're in the safe hands. Generations will come and they will own that. Like it's very sad that sometimes you go to some of the artists, I can say only here in Tanzania, but in also other places, you find that yes, especially to these commercial artists, their art is mainly to foreign white community, because they are the one who I can say maybe give appreciation to what they're creating. But in a way around, the art that they're creating should be owned by themselves or by the community that the art belongs to. Our kids at school, they might need to learn about the history of the Union. But what if this piece of art here has been collected by a certain collector in Europe in his house, and is inside in that house, and not this piece being into the museum of Tanzania or to a collector there who can show these kids from Tanzania what we have there, or what's all about the Union through this piece of art. Because art also lives through generations. We have good examples of those artworks who have been like staying for more than 500 years, 800 years, and they are still there. And can you imagine of this piece in 500 years to come? Maybe our stories will change, but this piece will still keep that story of the Union. We used to have the Union, and those who founded the Union were these and these, and we used to have these plantations in Zanzibar and in Tanganyika, and we used to have this and this type of kanga. We used to have this type of kanga. Maybe there's a change of kanga in that time, in 500 years to come. Maybe there is a change of crops in 500 years to come. Maybe the original crops will never be there. So art is about preserving the story, the history, and the history will identify us in time to come. Just like yesterday, I was watching Al Jazeera. I was watching Al Jazeera, and I saw that in Egypt they discovered like several numbers of these tombs, and they are like putting them into public. But these tombs have like different paintings on top of them, and those paintings gave them a story of those carvings, like where, how long, like everything that they wanted. They got it from those drawings through those carvings. So the same as to the ownership of art, but what art carries, and what do art belongs to, and what should we put into our artworks. We as artists, the community, those whom the art will be owned by. So that's all about. Yeah.
Man, Zuri. There's no more that need to be said, because brothers and sisters, Africans, our people around the world that's watching this interview can receive the power and the empowerment and the authority from everything that you said in this interview. We learned a lot today.
Yeah.
And this message that you just gave doesn't just resonate, or it just doesn't apply to Tanzanians and the Tanzanian kids. This is for our kids everywhere around the world that's going to see this. And everything that you said today is powerful. So, asante sana kaka. One thing I do want to say quickly in Swahili is tunajifunza kwa wewe leo na tuna upendo Tanzania na kakas Tanzania, dadas Tanzania, na asante sana kuwewe.
Yeah. Now, one thing that I like about my brother here is the thing of a language, Swahili. I feel so much appreciating when seeing you speaking Swahili, but also learning. And for me, sometimes I feel ashamed of not using Swahili for everything. But in any way, we want the information to reach out. So I feel so blessed to meet you guys, and you are doing the real great job, the job that we have been always looking or seeking for, because by doing so, sometimes we just don't do discoveries by with these technologies. We do sometimes discoveries by visiting each other, knowing one another, sharing what we have, and by doing so, we get to learn from each other. And by learning from each other, we get to be developed in a way that if you are mentally developed, that means you cannot be conquered. You will live forever. You will live forever. But if you are mentally underdeveloped, that means you'll always be down there. And you don't want to be down there. Thank you, brother.
Missouri.
Yeah.
Missouri, I guess we got to clap it up. Because that will change the minds of so many children and so many families that sit down and watch this interview.
Yeah.
So for everybody to follow you, they want to follow you, because this is just part one. We're going to do another interview later. But for everybody that wants to follow you and to follow the work that you're doing, I know that you're on Instagram, so where can they follow you on Instagram?
On Instagram, I'm known by the name Amani Salim Abeid. Amani _ Salim SALIM _ Abeid ABEID. Yeah. So you'll find me there.
And can they find you on Facebook?
I do in Facebook. The same account, Amani Salim Abeid. Yeah.
And do you have a YouTube?
I do have an account also on YouTube. Okay. Yeah, the same Amani Abeid.
So,
yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, that will end this interview. This is part one. Again, who are you?
My name is Amani Abeid.
And you represent who?
I represent Tanzanian visual artists, but I'm also a Tanzanian visual artist.
Nzuri.
Yeah.
Badai.